The Egyptian desert stretches before me, a sea of sand and time. The pyramids rise in the distance, ancient sentinels guarding secrets. These monuments have beckoned adventurers and explorers for centuries. I'm here to answer that call, to step back in time. My mission: survive the pyramids. The pyramids are more than just tombs. They're a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. My backpack is light. Water is my lifeline in this unforgiving desert. A first aid kit for the unexpected. A compass to navigate the labyrinth within. The weight of history hangs heavy, even if my pack doesn't. The pyramids await. The challenge has begun. The air grows heavy as I approach the pyramid's base. It towers above me, a monument to another time. The entrance is a dark, gaping maw. I take a deep breath and step inside. The coolness inside is a welcome relief from the desert heat. The air is thick with the smell of dust and decay. The silence is absolute, broken only by the sound of my own breathing. Hieroglyphs faded by time line the walls. My headlamp cuts a narrow beam through the gloom, revealing the way forward one step at a time. The passageway twists and turns, a maze designed to confuse and disorient. I rely on my compass and my instincts to guide me. The air grows heavier, more oppressive. Loose stones litter the floor. I tread carefully, testing each step before putting my full weight down. The last thing I need is to be trapped in this subterranean labyrinth. A faint breeze whispers through the passageway, carrying the scent of something stale and musty. As night falls outside, the darkness inside the pyramid becomes absolute. My headlamp is my only source of light, casting eerie shadows that dance and flicker on the walls. I find a small chamber, a slightly wider section of the passageway. I decide to make camp for the night. I need to conserve my energy and my sanity. It's amazing how the mind can play tricks on you in the dark, especially in a place like this. I lay out my sleeping bag on the dusty floor, trying to ignore the feeling of unease that creeps up my spine. The stories about cursed tombs and vengeful spirits come to mind. I try to rationalize them away, but the darkness seems to amplify every creak and groan of the ancient structure. I have to remind myself that I'm Bear Grylls, survivor, adventurer. The darkness inside the pyramid is alive with whispers. Legends and myths passed down through generations, tales of hidden chambers filled with treasure, cursed tombs guarded by vengeful spirits, stories designed to frighten and enthrall. I'm here to separate fact from fiction, to see the pyramids through the lens of a survivalist. The ancient Egyptians were masters of engineering and architecture, but they were also practical people. They built the pyramids to last an eternity, to protect the bodies and treasures of their pharaohs. While there are some defensive measures in place, like false doors and hidden shafts, there's no evidence of elaborate traps or deadly curses. The real dangers inside the pyramid are more mundane: falling rocks, dust inhalation, dehydration. The stories of mummies coming back to life are just that, stories. The real threat from mummies comes from the bacteria and fungi that can thrive in these ancient tombs. The pyramids are more than just tombs. They are time machines, transporting us back to a civilization that flourished thousands of years ago. The sheer scale of these structures is awe-inspiring, a testament to the ingenuity and determination of the ancient Egyptians. The pyramids were built as elaborate tombs for the pharaohs, who were believed to become gods after death. Exploring the interior of the pyramid, I'm struck by the ingenuity of the ancient Egyptians, the air shafts, the hidden chambers, the intricate hieroglyphs. These structures were not just tombs, they were feats of engineering and artistry. As I settle down for the night in my makeshift camp, I can't help but feel a sense of connection to the past. The ancient Egyptians may have lived thousands of years ago, but their hopes, their dreams, their fears were not so different from our own. The pyramids are a reminder of our own mortality, but also a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. The ancient Egyptians believed in something bigger than themselves, something worth dedicating their lives to. Their legacy lives on in these magnificent structures, inspiring awe and wonder in all who behold them. Tomorrow I will face new challenges, new dangers. The walls of the passageways are covered in hieroglyphs, a language of pictures and symbols. For centuries, these inscriptions remained a mystery, a code waiting to be cracked. Then the Rosetta Stone was discovered, unlocking the secrets of this ancient language. The hieroglyphs tell stories of pharaohs and gods, of life and death, of the Egyptians' beliefs and rituals. Thanks to the work of archaeologists and linguists, we can now read the hieroglyphs and piece together the stories they tell. The walls of the pyramids are no longer silent, they speak to us across the millennia. The pyramids are a testament to the engineering genius of the ancient Egyptians. How did they construct these massive structures using only simple tools and human labor? It's a question that has puzzled experts for centuries. The construction of the pyramids was a massive undertaking. It required the coordination of thousands of workers over many years. The Egyptians used a system of ramps, levers, and rollers to move the blocks. The fact that these structures have stood for millennia is a testament to the skill and ingenuity of their builders. The ancient Egyptians were keen observers of the night sky. They charted the stars and constellations, developing a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. The pyramids are aligned with remarkable accuracy to the cardinal points, north, south, east, and west. The Egyptians used the stars to guide their construction, ensuring that these monuments were perfectly oriented to the cosmos. The air shafts inside the Great Pyramid are believed to align with specific stars, such as Sirius and Orion. These structures were not just tombs, they were celestial observatories. The pharaohs were more than just kings. They were considered to be gods on earth, living embodiments of Horus, the god of kingship. The pyramids were built as a testament to their greatness. The pharaohs were responsible for maintaining Ma'at, the cosmic order. Their deaths marked a transition to the afterlife, where they would continue to rule as gods. Inside the pyramids, the pharaohs were surrounded by everything they would need in the afterlife: treasures, weapons, food, and even boats, their reign continuing for all eternity. Stepping out of the pyramid's cool embrace and back into the desert, I'm hit by a wall of heat. The sun, a relentless furnace in the sky, beats down with unforgiving intensity. The desert doesn't tolerate weakness. Every step is a battle against the elements. The ancient Egyptians not only survived here, they thrived. To survive here, you must become one with the desert. Water, the lifeblood of any desert survival. Out here, it's more precious than gold. The ancient Egyptians knew this, and they devised ingenious methods to find and conserve this precious resource, methods that still hold true today. They observed the lay of the land, recognizing the subtle depressions and slopes where rainwater would collect. They dug wells, tapping into underground aquifers. They even devised ways to collect morning dew, using large cloths to capture this fleeting source of moisture. Conserving water was just as crucial as finding it. The ancient Egyptians wore loose-fitting, light-colored clothing to reflect the sun's rays and reduce sweating. They carried water in porous clay pots, allowing for evaporation, which cooled the remaining contents. They understood that every drop was precious, a gift from the desert that must not be wasted. I followed their example, rationing my own water supply carefully. I scanned the landscape for any sign of moisture, any hint of green that might betray a hidden oasis. The desert, however, plays its cards close to its chest. Survival here depends on sharp eyes, a keen sense of observation, and a willingness to learn from the ancient masters of desert survival. The thirst is a constant companion, a gnawing reminder of the desert's power, but I know that panic is my enemy. The ancient Egyptians survived here for centuries. Their knowledge, passed down through time, is my lifeline. I must trust my instincts, my training, and the wisdom of those who came before me. Section 3. Shelter and Shade. Outwitting the sun's wrath. The sun is a double-edged sword. It gives life, but it can also take it away with alarming speed. Finding or creating shelter from its brutal heat is essential for survival in the desert. The ancient Egyptians, masters of adaptation, were well versed in the art of outwitting the sun's wrath. They sought out natural shelters, caves, rock overhangs, even the shade of a large dune. When these weren't available, they improvised. Using whatever materials they could find, branches, leaves, animal hides, they constructed makeshift shelters, simple structures designed to provide a sliver of shade, a refuge from the relentless heat. Timing was everything. They moved during the cooler hours of the day, early morning and late afternoon, when the sun's rays were less intense. During the hottest part of the day, they rested, conserving their energy and seeking out whatever shade they could find. They lived in tune with the desert's rhythms, understanding that survival depended on respecting its power. I feel the sun baking my skin, a constant reminder of its unforgiving nature. I seek out whatever meager shade I can find, a rocky outcrop, a lone acacia tree. These moments of respite are precious, a chance to catch my breath, to rehydrate, to gather my strength for the next leg of my journey. The desert tests you, pushes you to your limits, but it also reveals your true nature, strips away all pretense and leaves you bare, exposed to the elements and to yourself. It's in these moments of vulnerability that you discover your true strength, your capacity for resilience, your will to survive. The desert, a harsh teacher, offers profound lessons for those willing to listen. Section 1. Sensory deprivation, the mind's desert. The desert outside is a place of extremes, a symphony of light and shadow, heat and cold. But the pyramid's depths offer a different kind of challenge, sensory deprivation. Here, in the heart of this ancient monument, silence reigns supreme. A silence so profound it becomes a presence in itself. My footsteps, muffled by the dust-laden air, seem to vanish into the oppressive stillness. The faintest rustle of my clothing, the rasp of my breath against the fabric of my mask, are amplified in this vacuum of sound. Even my thoughts, normally a jumbled stream of consciousness, feel sluggish, as if the very air I breathe is thick with the weight of centuries. The human mind, accustomed to the constant bombardment of sensory input, struggles to adapt to this profound stillness. It's in this sensory desert, cut off from the familiar cues of the outside world, that the mind can begin to play tricks on itself. Shadows dance at the edge of my vision. Whispers seem to emanate from the very stones themselves. I remind myself that these are just illusions, tricks of a mind starved for stimulation. I focus on the rhythm of my breathing, the steady beat of my heart. These are the sounds of life, anchors in this sea of silence. I have faced down danger before, both in the natural world and within myself. I will not let the silence break me. Section 2. The weight of silence, echoes of eternity. The silence within the pyramid is not just the absence of sound, it's the accumulated silence of millennia. The echoes of footsteps long faded, of voices stilled, of rituals performed in hushed whispers. This is the silence of history itself, a weight that presses down on me, forcing me to confront my own mortality. I imagine the ancient Egyptians who once walked these corridors, priests performing sacred rites, workers hauling massive stones, the pharaoh himself, his presence a beacon of power and divinity. Their lives, their beliefs, their very existence are woven into the fabric of this place, and yet they are gone. Their voices silenced by time, their stories preserved only in the faded inscriptions on the walls. The silence is a constant reminder of the ephemeral nature of life, the inevitability of death. It's a humbling realization, one that forces me to confront my own place in the grand tapestry of time. But the silence is not just a void, it's also a space for reflection, for introspection. Stripped of all distractions, I'm free to confront my own thoughts and emotions, to examine the choices that have led me to this point in my life. The silence, once oppressive, now feels strangely liberating. It's a chance to reconnect with my inner self, to find a sense of peace amidst the chaos of the world. Here, in the heart of the pyramid, surrounded by the weight of history and the silence of eternity, I find a strange sense of serenity. The silence is no longer a threat, but a companion. A reminder that life is precious, that every moment is a gift. I breathe deeply, letting the silence wash over me, cleansing my mind and spirit. I'm ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead. Section 1. Emerging from the silence, lessons from the sands of time. The sun, a blazing inferno sinking below the horizon, paints the desert sky in hues of orange, purple and gold as I emerge from the pyramid's entrance. My muscles ache, my throat is parched, but my spirit soars. I've spent a day and a night in the belly of this ancient giant, faced my fears, and emerged, changed. The desert air, cool and crisp after the stifling heat of the day, fills my lungs with the sweet taste of freedom. The pyramids, once distant sentinels on the horizon, are now familiar companions. Their silence, once oppressive, now whispers tales of resilience, ingenuity, and the enduring power of the human spirit. The ancient Egyptians, masters of this unforgiving landscape, have taught me that survival is not just about physical strength, but about mental fortitude, adaptability, and a deep respect for the natural world. I carry these lessons with me as I turn my back on the pyramids and step into the gathering darkness. The desert, no longer a hostile adversary, now feels like a proving ground, a place where the limits of human endurance are tested and the true measure of a person is revealed. I have stared into the face of antiquity, felt the weight of history on my shoulders, and learned that the greatest challenges often yield the most profound rewards. The world is full of pyramids, both literal and metaphorical. Challenges that loom large, testing our courage, our resourcefulness, our very will to survive. But the lessons learned in the heart of one pyramid can be applied to any obstacle we face. The key is to approach each challenge with respect, to learn from those who have gone before us, and to never give up hope, even in the face of overwhelming odds. For it is in overcoming these challenges that we discover our true potential and carve our own names into the sands of time.